He looked me straight in the eye and said, "You eat here. You shower here. You should help pay like everyone else." And just like that, I wasn't his mother anymore. I was a guest, a burden, a line item in his monthly bills. What he forgot? That bakery, the one feeding his family, still legally tied to my name, and I wasn't about to let him forget it much longer. It started 5 years ago. My son Evan was drowning in job rejections, bouncing between warehouse shifts and burned-out dreams. Melissa, his wife, had just given birth to their second child. They were barely affording rent, let alone thinking of a future. One night, he sat across from me at the kitchen table, sleepless, jittery, scribbling ideas on napkins. He wanted to start a catering business. He had the recipes, he said. He just didn't have the credit. That's when I did what mothers do. I offered the money, $20,000 from my retirement account. And more than that, I offered my name. He needed someone with good standing to open the business account, apply for the city license, and sign the lease on the kitchen space. I did it all. No contracts, no fuss, because I believed in him. Then I moved in to help. I watched their boys while they worked. I grocery shopped, cleaned, cooked every meal. Every dish served at Basil and Hearth was tested in my hands first. I even rode along on early deliveries, holding trays in my lap, while Evan drove like the world depended on every plate arriving on time. But I never asked for anything. Not a paycheck, not a title. I told myself love didn't need receipts, that one day they'd remember. Melissa thanked me less and less. Evan stopped saying, "Mom, I couldn't do this without you." And still, I stayed. Because that's what mothers do, until they're no longer seen as mothers. I should have seen it coming, but sometimes, when you've given too much, the silence feels like gratitude, until it turns into eviction. The knock on my bedroom door wasn't soft. It was short, sharp, like someone delivering bad news, not asking to talk. Evan stood there holding a printed sheet of paper like it was something official. He didn't smile, didn't ask how I was, just said, "We need to talk." "Mom." I thought maybe it was about the kids' school, maybe a concern about Logan's speech therapy or daycare hours. But no, he handed me a rental agreement, black and white. No warmth to it. "Starting next month," he said, "we're asking you to contribute $300 a month just to help with utilities, groceries, that kind of thing." I blinked, held the paper like it might morph into something else. A joke, a misunderstanding. "You've been here for almost 5 years. Mom," he continued, "we can't keep carrying everything." From behind him, Melissa appeared. She didn't step in, just leaned on the doorframe with arms crossed like she'd been waiting for this moment. "It's only fair," she added. "You eat, you shower, you live here. It's not sustainable anymore." I didn't speak at first. I wanted to ask, what about all the meals I've made, the kids I've watched, the bakery I helped build? But I didn't. Instead, I just looked at Evan, searched for the boy I raised, the one I stayed up with when he had the flu, the one who cried when I left him at kindergarten. But that boy wasn't there. And maybe this is where I pause and ask you, listening right now, have you ever done everything for someone, only for them to turn around and treat you like a burden? If you have, I hope you know, you're not alone. You're not crazy. And you deserve better than that silence. I tried to speak, tried to explain what I'd given, but my throat tightened, and my words fell apart in the back of my mouth. Melissa didn't wait. "It's not the same as money," she said. "We need cash, not casseroles." I think that line hurt the most. That night, I overheard them whispering in the kitchen. "She's not going to pay," Melissa said. "She doesn't have it. Just give her the deadline and let her figure it out." "I'm not running a charity," Evan replied. And just like that, they reduced me to someone in the way. Not someone who once gave up everything to lift them up. I stood in the hallway, fists clenched, heart hollow. And the next morning, before the sun rose, I packed a small suitcase. No goodbye, no note, no scene. Just one bag, one woman, and a door closing behind her that should have never needed to. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't raise my voice or demand an apology. I just walked out with one small suitcase, a few clothes, and the sound of my own footsteps echoing where gratitude used to live. No one stopped me. No one called to ask if I was okay. Not Evan, not Melissa, not even the grandkids I'd helped raise from diapers. The streets were quiet that morning. Fog hung low over the pavement like it was trying to hide what was happening. Or maybe it was trying to comfort me. because nothing else did. I checked into a small extended stay motel near the edge of town. It had flickering ceiling lights and a heater that groaned every 30 seconds. The bathroom tiles were cracked, and the smell of bleach couldn't hide the years of wear. But it was mine, and more importantly, it was silent. I sat on the edge of the thin mattress, holding the rental contract like a betrayal letter. That piece of paper had undone years of sacrifice, unspoken meals cooked, midnight laundry folded, grandkids comforted during fevers. They didn't want a mother anymore. They wanted a tenant. And when I didn't give them money, they wanted my absence. Fine. They could have both. I opened my suitcase to look for my phone charger and instead pulled out an old file folder I'd forgotten about. Inside were documents I'd carried for years, just in case. My ID, social security card, medical records from when I worked as a private home nurse. And there it was. A folder labeled Articles of Organization, Basil and Hearth Catering. Still in my name. Still legal. Still active. I froze. See? Back when Evan started the business, he didn't have the credit to open a business account. So I did. Under my name. With my tax ID, he promised we'd change it over once things got stable. We never did. In that moment, sitting alone on a motel bed, with the heater rattling like a distant drum, I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel sad. I just felt awake, sharp. They'd forgotten who helped them build that life. They'd pushed me out like I was invisible, but I wasn't. Not legally. And not anymore. I didn't move for a while after I found that folder. Just sat there, eyes on my own signature, like it belonged to someone else. But it was mine. And the name on the LLC paperwork? Margaret Hawkins. Owner, organizer, legal signatory. Evan had been so frantic when he started that business. Desperate, grateful, swearing we'd fix the paperwork once the first checks clear. But once the money started coming in, so did the forgetfulness. Well, I remembered now. And that changed everything. The next morning, I walked to the public library. Quiet, clean, filled with the hum of old computers and slow browsers. I didn't need anything fancy, just a working printer and some time. I pulled up the state's business registry, typed in the company name, status, active, primary contact, M. Hawkins, bank account holder, M. Hawkins. I stared at the screen, not out of shock, but out of confirmation. They thought they'd erased me. They hadn't. I printed everything, then walked 2 blocks to a small law office I remembered from my nursing days. The receptionist looked surprised when I walked in. I must have looked like someone's lost grandmother, holding a stack of papers and a canvas purse, but I didn't flinch. I'd like to speak to someone about business ownership and financial recovery. I said, my name's still on a company, and I'd like to know what I'm legally entitled to. An hour later, I had answers. And not just answers, options. As the listed owner, I could freeze the account. I could demand a financial audit. I could request back payment for 5 years of unpaid labor under implied contract. And I could do it all without stepping foot in their kitchen again. I left the office with a retainer agreement and the first breath of real air I'd had in weeks. Not heavy, not shallow, just steady. I wasn't going back to beg. I wasn't going to scream or cry. That's not how women like me win. We win on paper. On patience. On proof. Evan wanted me out of his house. Fine. Now I'd show him exactly what it feels like when the woman you tried to erase remembers who she is. I didn't send them a warning. No text. No phone call. No message saying, hey, by the way, Mom still owns the business. Instead, I sat at the corner desk of my motel room, heater rattling, rain tapping on the glass, and signed one document at a time. Power of attorney. Request for financial audit. Temporary freeze on all withdrawals from the business account. My lawyer filed the forms quietly, professionally. By the end of the week, the business bank account read under review. And Evan? He found out the hard way. Apparently, he was at the wholesaler when the company card declined. Melissa called the bank, then the accountant, then the city office. It didn't take long before my name came back into the conversation. Loud and undeniable. I didn't celebrate. I just boiled water for tea. That was enough. The next morning, I walked into a second-hand clothing shop and picked out a navy coat. Simple, sturdy, something that didn't carry their expectations. Then I found a furnished studio apartment across town. It was nothing fancy. 1 window, 1 stove, 1 table, but it was clean. And it was mine. No reminders on the fridge. No passive-aggressive sticky notes about groceries. No slammed doors. Just silence and space and light. In that quiet, I remembered who I was before I was mom. Can you watch the kids? Before I was, you're lucky we let you stay here. I was Margaret Hawkins, a trained caregiver, a smart woman, a woman who knew how to build something from scratch, even if it wasn't always for herself. So I started again. I opened a free online account and began posting short videos, simple recipes, kitchen tips, memories of meals I used to make. Within a few weeks, people started watching, then subscribing, then asking for more. I didn't mention Evan. Didn't hint at what had happened. I wasn't out for revenge. I was reclaiming my name, not as someone's mother, but as someone. And while they were scrambling, panicking, trying to patch together a business they thought they owned, I was quietly building something new, small, sure, but rooted in peace, not pity. They turned me into a stranger, so I became one. With power. They didn't knock on my door. They emailed. Melissa wrote first. It was all pastel pleasantries and passive-aggressive phrases like, "We never meant to make you feel unwanted. This has all been one big misunderstanding. The kids miss you so much." Then Evan followed. Short and shaky. "Can we talk?" "Mom, I didn't know it would go this far, but it did go that far." And they were the ones who pushed it. They thought I'd fade quietly. Instead, I filed for equitable compensation and exercised my right as majority controller of the business until audit was complete. Their hands were tied. Their bakery, our bakery, was in limbo. Contracts stalled. Suppliers gone cold. And still, I didn't gloat, didn't shame them, didn't post a single bitter word. I let the truth speak. I submitted labor logs I'd kept out of habit, daily notes from my planner, food costs from my own pocket, delivery routes I'd driven, all admissible, all verifiable, all real. When my attorney sent the final reconciliation, 5 years of unpaid labor, back revenue share, plus statutory penalties, Evan didn't reply. He just signed $183,200, deposited into my new account under the business name I'd quietly re-registered as a sole proprietorship. They handed me everything, thinking they were kicking me out. But I was never out. I just walked away so I could walk back on my own terms. And I did. I donated a portion of the settlement to a local nonprofit that teaches financial literacy to older women, because no woman my age should ever feel disposable. Then I closed the business. Not out of spite, out of clarity. The name Basil and Hearth deserved better than to be tied to people who forgot who built its bones. As for Evan and Melissa, they moved out of town 6 months later. The last I heard, he was managing a grocery store. I didn't chase the story. I had nothing left to prove. I now live in a little house near the water, where the windows stay open and the tea stays warm. Some mornings, I still think about the noise of that old kitchen, the laughter of my grandkids echoing through the halls. But I don't miss the silence that came after. The kind that cuts deeper than words. Because now, I'm surrounded by a silence I chose. One rooted in peace, not punishment. And if you're still watching, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt erased in a house you helped build? Have you ever been told you were lucky to be where you already gave everything? Leave a comment. Your story matters. Even if they try to forget it, we won't. Because here, we remember the women who gave and finally took something back.